Salvatore De Laurentis aka Sally D, aka Pizza Guy. Chicago mob operative born 1938. In 1987, De Laurentis told Bill Jahota that he paid $1,000 per month to the Forest Park police chief to protect the crew's floating craps game, and later, when the game was moved to the Argo Willow Springs area, protection was paid there as well. He also paid $5,000 per month to James Dvorak, the undersheriff of Cook County, some of which was to be forwarded to the Cook County Sheriff for protection. The payment was increased in 1988 to $10,000 per month. In 1989, Infelice told Jahota that the crew was paying $35,000 each month to jailed crew members and the coppers. When Jahota was arrested in February 1988 by the Illinois State Police for operating a blackjack game at the Arlington Hilton Hotel, Infelice and De Laurentis told him that they were paying off 3 Cook County judges to fix his case, and that the problem was that one judge, Christy Berkos, was holding out for a trip for 2 to Hawaii. The deal probably fell apart, because in early 1989, Berkos recused himself from the case because he knew one of Jahota's family members. The second judge on the case, Judge Thomas Hett, also recused himself during the summer of 1989 because he too knew one of Jahota's family members. De Laurentis told Jahota that the third judge assigned to his case, Judge Richard Neville, would be paid $10,000 to fix the case, and that the outfit's lawyer, payoff man Pat Marcy, was to handle it. The state eventually dismissed the case on its own motion. Every Christmas, De Laurentis made a special collection from the bookmakers to pay off various individuals in the Cook County Sheriff's Department, which ranged from $1,500 to $5,000 per year. In 1981, the crew collected $1,000 in monthly payments from gambler Ken Ito to buy police protection from the Vice Control Division of the Chicago Police Department for Ito's Monte game. In 1982, Infelice paid an additional $1,500 per month out of the Rouse House Casino profits so that he could bribe the Lake County Sheriff to get advance notice of raids. In return for the special tax, Bill Jahota, who ran the casino, had a hot phone installed in the casino where the advance raid warnings would be phoned in. In 1986, Infelice, working through Pat Marcy, bribed his federal probation officer by finding the probation officer's son a job with the Town of Cicero Department of Public Works. From 1986 through 1988, the crew also operated 24 floating blackjack games managed by Jahota, who rigged the games by using professional card cheats and mirrored shoes. In total, the games took in $1 million in profits. At 5'7", 160 pounds, De Laurentis' only goal in life has been to become a mobster, although he prided himself as a talented amateur singer. De Laurentis first surfaced as a member of the Ferriola Street Crew during the summer of 1979 and began organizing the independent sports bookmaking operations across the counties the outfit controlled. He also collected a street tax from bookmakers and prostitution and pornographic bookstores, juice loans, parlay card operators, casinos, and floating blackjack and craps games. De Laurentis told a brothel operator about how he intended to take over Lake County, saying, "See, what I'm telling you is in a month I'm gonna look for. I want you to keep looking for joints. Just keep looking for joints. Solly's a partner with you here, but he's not gonna be a partner with you anywhere else, you know what I mean, unless he finds a joint, you like it, so you go partners with him." By 1980, De Laurentis had subcollectors reporting to him. In 1982, De Laurentis became the point man for the crew's extortion business. Bill Jahota testified that in the late part of 88, and possibly the very early part of 89, I had occasion to have a meeting with Infelice, and Rocky says, "Solly was made last night. I sponsored him, and he says I'm surprised. I still use fire and paper," Jahota continued and said, "I saw De Laurentis to take care of our business. I just said congratulations. The other guy told me about it. As he said many times since that, well, I'm like the other guy is now, because the other guy is like what the other guy was." In essence, he's telling me he's doing what Rocky Infelice used to do, and Rocky is doing what Joey Ferriola used to do. By September 13, 1989, he was reporting only to Infelice, and was, effectively, the boss of Lake County in charge of street tax and gambling for the Ferriola Street Crew. In 1988, he replaced Jahota as a partner and manager of the day-to-day operations of the crew's principal bookmaking operation. De Laurentis owned a liquor store called Sally D's, a bowling alley and a pizza restaurant in the Lake County village of Island Lake. He was also in charge of the crew's massive gambling operations and had a stake in rigged video poker machines installed in 22 area taverns. Discussing his ability to use his muscle when he had to, De Laurentis was recorded making the following boasts. De Laurentis, I says, you bulldog motherfucker, I ever catch you in fucking Lake Country again, I'll knock you motherfucking head off. He says, well, what about my money? I says, it's in my pocket. You want to come and get it? He says, well, it ain't my money, it's Louie's. You want me to tell Louie that? I say you tell anybody the fuck you want. Okay. So now he's figuring me and Louie will get in a beef, right? So, he calls BJ, meaning Bill Jahoda, for help. So BJ says, fuck, I can't help you with Solly. What the fuck can I do with Solly? He says, well, I got to talk to somebody, so he says I'll have somebody else call you. So Rocky and Felice called, he says, Mikey, I'm going to tell you for the last time, when Solly says shit, you fucking squat, cause if I turn him loose, he will knock you fucking head off. He says one word and, you know what happens, the only reason he didn't knock your fucking head off already, he says he wanted to put a fucking turban on your head. You know what that is, don't ya? Informant, no. De Laurentis, you break a guy's head, they got to wrap it. Informant, laughs. De Laurentis, fucking gauze. He says if it was up to Solly, you'd have been wearing a fucking turban already. He says now I am telling you, you fucking get out of line again, he's got the go sign now. He says if you fart in that fucking county and you don't tell him about it first, he will put a fucking turban on your head. So he's shitting. De Laurentis also felt that it was his responsibility to keep the crew going if other crew leaders were indicted or convicted of criminal charges. De Laurentis. You know, I'm going to try and keep this thing going. Let's say they scoop us. I'm putting guys in now to keep this fucking thing going. One thing is going to jail and you still got everything going, and you know that, like you did last time. Jahoda, oh, yeah. De Laurentis, that's another thing to go, we're all closed up, you know. So I'll try to get a couple of guys in line for when nobody's home, you know, either me or Rocky or Louie, one of us, it will be a lot better if one of us is out on the street. Jahoda, true. De Laurentis, if we're all gone, then the guys behind us. We might lose a little money, somebody might steal a little along the way, but we still got it going. One gambler who fell behind told of beating he received at De Laurentis' pizza shop, all the way on the front on the pizza place. He took me all around the back and he started hitting me again. So let's say about 15 minutes. I don't know what that is. I left and went to Florida because I thought if he was going to catch me now again, I was going to be dead. The gambler testified that De Laurentis called him in Florida and said, you think I can't find you? Steve Hospodar, a 65-year-old gambler who fell seriously behind in his payments to De Laurentis and his partner and fellow underboss, Lou Marino. Hospodar was called to a south suburban restaurant to meet with Marino. Marino, you will find some fucking money. Hospodar, I'm gonna try. Marino, you will find some fucking money. Hospodar, like I say, I'm gonna try. Marino, you motherfucker. Hospodar, I'm gonna try. Marino, you will find money. Hospodar, well, we'll see what happens. I'll make every. Marino, hey, I ain't seeing. Hospodar, every effort. Marino, what happens? Hospodar, I'll make every effort. Marino, I ain't seeing what happens. You make a date, you motherfucker. You cannot fulfill, you can't live with it. You will fucking get me money today. Hospodar, all right. Marino, I give a fuck where you get it. Hospodar, all right. Marino, you get me money. Go steal the motherfucker. Hospodar, I'll have to. Marino, I don't give a fuck. If I was in that spot, that's what the fuck I'd be doing. You just go fuck and do it, Steve. The game's over, Steve. I'll tell ya. Hospodar, all right. Marino, right now. Hospodar, all right. Marino, you'll fucking be here tonight. Hear what I'm telling you, Steve? Hospodar, okay. Marino, you fucking be here. What time? Hospodar, you said between 6:30. Marino, all right. I want to make it a right fucking time. I don't be. Hospodar, all right. Marino, fucking sitting in this joint. De Laurentis then led Hospodar into the men's room and messed him up a little because he was suspicious that Hospodar was wearing a wire. He was, as it turned out, but they didn't find it. When he came out, his wig was wet. Solly had thrown the wig into the toilet and put it back on his head. Other shakedowns were calmer. A gambler named Hildebrandt said that in the fall of 1983, De Laurentis and two of his men came up to him in a restaurant and said, "Hi, Rock. How you doing? I know you guys are running rooms. This can't go on. I thought we were going to take care of this problem. We have to go now and have a cup of coffee and discuss this." "I love my work," De Laurentis told Jahoda as they were driving back to Illinois from Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. "I'm so fucking busy, but I enjoy it. I enjoy my work. Always did. I wish it didn't have that sentence threatening over you all the fucking time, but that's what it is. It is." One gambler that the hoods couldn't scare was Hal C. Smith, who managed nearly a dozen wire rooms that grossed up to $400,000. Smith's income was between $2.8 to $4.2 million, or 2 to 3% of the gross revenue from his independent bookmaking operation. He lived the high life in a palatial Prospect Heights home. The father of four, he carried enormous rolls of money around with him and flaunted his success, and of course, the mob noticed. The IRS also noticed and raided his home and found $606,000 in cash, stuffed inside a gym bag in the garage. They seized Smith's Cadillac and house under a federal law that allows the government to confiscate assets derived from illegal enterprises. In the fall of 1983, De Laurentis arranged a meeting with Janice and Robbie Hildebrandt, one of Smith and Janice's phone clerks. At this meeting, De Laurentis told Janice and Hildebrandt that they and Smith would have to pay street tax. When Hildebrandt told Smith about the meeting, Smith said "fuck that little guinea" and told Hildebrandt that he would take care of it. Janice retired to Florida shortly afterwards. Rocky Infeliz and mobster Lou Marino assigned gambler Bill Jahoda to find Smith's house and tail him for 3 months. When the 3 months was over, Jahoda pointed out Smith to enforcer Bobby Bellavia at a north suburban golf course. Bellavia approached Smith and told him to attend a meeting with Rocky Infeliz and gave him the time, date, and place to meet. But Smith didn't show up. So Sal De Laurentis followed him and tailed him to a restaurant in rural Lake County and set up a meeting between himself, Smith, and Hildebrandt. One night in the winter of 1984, undercover detective Thomas Sherry, a 28-year veteran of the Chicago Police Department, watched as Hal C. Smith, considered by federal investigators as one of the biggest independent bookies in the country, and Sal De Laurentis, squared off in a nearly deserted Lake County restaurant, tossing money and questioning the other's ethnic heritage in a heated show of force, as Sherry reported. And Smith made numerous ethnic slurs about De Laurentis. He added that De Laurentis vowed to see Smith dead unless he paid $6,000 in protection money to the mob. Smith offered to pay $3,000, then $3,500, Sherry said, but De Laurentis said it wasn't good enough. Smith said, "Well, now you get nothing." They started throwing money around. They were trying to show who had more money than the other fellow. Finally, Sherry said, the shouting and ethnic slurs ceased. De Laurentis told Smith, "You are Trump music, my friend." On February 7, 1985, Infeliz, Marino, and Bellavia came to Jahoda's house. Infeliz told Jahoda that only he and Smith should come to his house, preferably in Smith's car. Smith should enter the house alone through the kitchen, and Jahoda should try not to go in the house. Later that day, Jahoda met Smith at the bar and brought him back to his house as instructed. Jahoda told Smith to go in through the kitchen while he pretended to go over to his mailbox. Jahoda saw Infeliz, Marino, and Bellavia in the house after he arrived with Smith. The last time Jahoda saw Smith, he was dazed and slumped on the floor with Infeliz, Marino, and Bellavia surrounding him. Later that evening, Jahoda returned home, which was empty, and noticed that part of the kitchen floor had been mopped. A few minutes later, Infeliz called and told him to look for a cigar and glasses that Marino thought had been left behind. Jahoda looked but said he couldn't find them. Both items were later recovered from Smith's car by the Arlington Heights police. Jahoda left for Mexico the next day, but on February 10, 1985, Smith's body was found in the trunk of his car. The coroner who examined the body concluded that Smith died of strangulation. The coroner also found that Smith had been tortured because he had been severely beaten about the head and face. He had numerous superficial incisions and cuts in his neck and chest, and his throat was slit. But none were fatal. Jahoda, still in Mexico, got a call from Infeliz, who told him that Smith's body had been found and to return to Chicago. Jahoda met with infelies who told him that they were all hot because of that thing, as he put it, and Jahoda was particularly hot and added that the recent murder of gambler and outfit hood Chucky English was a good distraction and would take the heat off this thing. Jahoda suspected that he too would be murdered after Hal Smith was killed, so he flipped to the government. But another reason that Jahoda might have flipped to the government involved a woman named Penny Carson. In 1985, Carson had been dating De Laurentis but dropped him in favor of Bill Jahoda. De Laurentis never forgot it, and when he was made into the mafia in 1989, De Laurentis told Jahoda that if he wanted to, as a made man, he could kill him and Penny Carson if the moment struck him. Jahoda panicked and flipped to the government and helped to convict at least 20 hoods. The trial turned into a slugfest when De Laurentis' lawyer, New Yorker Bruce Cutler, perhaps the second most obnoxious mob lawyer in organized crime history, tore into Bill Jahoda on the witness stand. When Jahoda said he attended De Laurentis' 51st birthday party in August of 1989 at De Laurentis' secluded Inverness home, Cutler claimed the statement was a ruse by the government, thought Jahoda, to tie De Laurentis to national organized crime and the New York families. Jahoda said he purchased De Laurentis a gift copy of New York crime chieftain Joseph Bonanno's autobiography, A Man of Honor, and had written inside the cover, "With every good wish to you, a real man of honor. Love and respect, B. Do you know what it means to be honorable?" Cutler asked mockingly, rapidly adding the virtues of loyalty and friendship to the question. "Sure," Jahoda replied. "Did you mean it when you wrote love and respect?" Cutler continued. "In all honesty, no," Jahoda answered. Jahoda had testified earlier that when he handed De Laurentis the book, that De Laurentis had talked in an incriminating manner about mob families in New York and Chicago. Cutler countered that the talk was merely idle chit-chat about events in Bonanno's book. Cutler's line of questioning was so severe that Chief Prosecutor Mitchell Mars frequently objected, only to have Cutler turn on him. When Mars asked Jahoda if he had tried to slip and talk with De Laurentis about watching movies depicting the mafia, Cutler declared, "Get up, Mars." "I am up," Mars replied. "And I object." Bookmaker William Martino said that he paid De Laurentis after Hal Smith was killed because "I was afraid, intimidated," and said De Laurentis gave him three choices: pay the money, split his gambling business with him, or turn the entire business over to the mob. The best option, he said, was to pay. Pat Gervais, a Lake County brothel keeper who operated two houses, Cherry's Studio and Portrait de Femmes, testified that he paid $12,000 in extortion money to De Laurentis to stay in business. Gervais said the money, which he brought each month to De Laurentis' pizzeria and liquor store in Island Lake, bought protection from the mob and sheriff's police. Gervais, who was a government informant and recording most of his conversations with De Laurentis, said that De Laurentis had ways of finding out when police raids might be coming. If they did, he would get a warning phone call that uncle is on his way. De Laurentis also told him you might take a pinch without them calling you. Sometimes the state's attorney comes right in. There's no time, to give you a call. Eventually, Gervais's Cook County whorehouse, Portrait de Femmes, was raided and closed down. When he asked why, he was told that it competed with a brothel run by a sheriff's department official. Gervais said sheriff's police who carried out the raid told him their boss, Richard Quagliano, had ordered it. They were told by Quagliano to take their badges off, Gervais said. They said they were not going to allow a place to operate across the street from his, meaning Quagliano. In 1986, after the facts became public, Quagliano resigned from the county force, and no charges were ever filed against him. James LaValle, a convicted extortionist with 50 burglaries to his name, testified that when he pursued one deadbeat gambler named Tony Ignifo too much, De Laurentis called him in to a meeting at the Onion Roll restaurant in Oak Park and dressed him down. "He told me I was causing heat and to forget the debt," LaValle said. Sometimes, asked De Laurentis lawyer Bruce Cutler, "you threaten people just by showing up, fair statement?" "That's true," LaValle replied. "It's the business we are in." "Your business," Cutler said, correcting him. Sally D has pleaded not guilty. George Miller Jr., an independent bookmaker, testified that in 1982 De Laurentis gave him a choice of merging his gambling business with the mob's or split his profits. "I chose to hook up with them," Miller said. "I'd probably get my legs broken if I didn't." Rocky Infelice said if we didn't join up he would find our printing press to print football parlay cards and he would smash it. "My father told Rocky he was a friend of Joey Iappa." Louis Marino said, "That was then and this is now. We are up here taking over Lake County. By the end of football season, Miller turned over half his profits to the mob, about $50,000 to $60,000 from telephone sports bets he had booked, plus another $10,000 from his parlay card earnings. He also said that there were some benefits to working with De Laurentis. When a racehorse who owed him $10,000 tried to skip town, some hood spotted him at a hotel near O'Hare International Airport in 1982 and stopped him from boarding a plane. They bounced him, Miller said, meaning they held upside down until his wallet fell out and $500 was taken as a down payment on the debt. All I heard was a couple of screams. Sam Joseph Militia was caught in extortion in Chicago and drug smuggling operation in Louisiana and agreed to turn government informant. Before that, he had been a driver for De Laurentis, whom he considered his mob mentor. Militia discussed protection payoffs and said that De Laurentis showed him how collect you do what you gotta do to get the money, Militia said De Laurentis had told him. On March 9, 1992, Rocco Infalis, De Laurentis, Louis Marino, and Robert Bellavia were all found guilty of racketeering and participation in an illegal gambling business. The jury concluded that Rocky Infalis had conspired to kill Hal Smith, but was unable to decide if he actually participated in the murder. They also found that De Laurentis had not conspired to kill Smith, but agreed that he had actually plotted the killing. De Laurentis was sentenced to 18 years in prison, with the judge noting that De Laurentis showed no remorse, no regret for his crimes. Not only had the jury sentenced them to jail, the hoods were ordered to forfeit $3 million to the government. After the convictions, the government decided to go after Infalis and De Laurentis holdings and demanded the right to interrogate the hoods' wives and adult children about ownership of their homes and financial accounts and other assets. They were after real estate, jewelry, or other possessions of forfeiture property are allowed under the racketeering laws the men were convicted of violating. According to a government petition, prosecutors targeted $70,000 in an account with an Infalis name on it with the investment firm of Payne Weber for forfeiture and asked the court to halt payments of $3,000 a month to an Infalis, arguing the money from her husband's investments was illegally obtained. While the government was trying to get their money, Infalis transferred ownership of a condominium at 1535 Forest Avenue, River Forest, valued then at $250,000, and a residential property in Hollywood, Florida, into his late mother-in-law's name. De Laurentis transferred cash and property at 411 Lauder Lane in Inverness, valued then at $400,000. It was occupied by Donna De Laurentis and one child. An island lake in Lake County to his wife and 5 close relatives.